We are continuing exactly where we left off. We're reading from the Zera Shimshon, learning about Shir HaShirim. Very briefly, to recap what we were talking about the last three classes, is about the fact that when we first got the Torah, we had unbelievable memory, that we, not only that we remembered everything that we learned, we didn't need any explanations. After the second commandment, the nation of the Jews said to Moshe Rabbeinu, listen, we can't hear Hashem's voice, it's too much for us. You listen and tell us. Because of that came what's called shichecha, forgetfulness into the world, and we started forgetting everything that we were told. Later on, there's another opinion that says that when we were sitting in the golden calf, then because of the sin, Moshe Rabbeinu broke the tablets, and because of that, not only that we forgot what we were learned, we can't contain what we learned, and the entire Torah has to be explained to us constantly. So with the second tablets came the oral Torah, and the Mishnayot, the Gemarot, the Midrashim, everything. Why? So we can understand. But before that, we would just read from the Torah, like the sages of the period of the Gemara, and understand everything. I wouldn't need explanations. We didn't need rabbis, we didn't need yeshivot, we didn't need YouTube, anything. Just know the Torah. So we're now dissecting, more to say, both opinions. The one opinion says that the forgetfulness came because of the fact that we told Hashem, and Moshe Rabbeinu, you talk to Hashem and then tell us. Another opinion says because of the breaking of the tablets. But nevertheless, this is very general what we went through the last three classes. The highlight of the last class was that we explained that the reason why the first tablets were able to be broken is because the Matan Torah, the time of the giving the Torah, was done publicly. And everybody saw it. Not only the nation of Israel saw it, all the nations saw it. Since it was publicly, then the Ayin Hara had a control over the tablets. And because of that, the tablets were able to be broken. The second tablets were given privately to Moshe Rabbeinu. So Ayin Hara was not controlling it, so you can't break the second tablets. So we concluded from that when anything is out in the open, that everybody can see, the Ayin Hara, the evil eye, can control it. And then Chas v'Shalom, something can happen. So we concluded by saying that the Talmud quotes, "En habracha shora ela b'davar samui min ha'ayin." You want the bracha? It's only the bracha, the blessing will only dwell on something that is concealed from their eye. So the way to receive bracha from Hashem is keeping things quiet, keeping it simple, keeping it humble and modest, not to show the whole world what you have, what you don't have. That only brings the Ayin Hara, the evil eye, to control what you're showing to the world. And needless to say that you want to conceal and hide everything, because that's when the Ayin Hara can control something. The same way that the tablets, everybody saw the tablet. Just imagine, millions and millions of people are standing and they see the tablets, how the Kadosh Baruch Hu is engraving on them. So with that came control of the Ayin Hara, and therefore the tablets were able to be broken. Then we concluded the last class by talking about Rav Yosef from the Talmud, that he was making a special meal on the holiday of Shavuot, specifically with meat. It says that only on Shavuot he would eat meat, and a special dish of a calf, and he was saying that because of that, because of the day of the Shavuot, he was given the Torah, made him very smart. Anyways, I don't want to repeat the whole class that we went. You can find it online. But this is kind of what we concluded. Now we're going to continue. And we're going to continue on elaborating on what Rav Yosef said in the previous class. And he goes as follows. Inami, or also, Yesh Lomar, one can say, another explanation of what Rav Yosef said, De'en hachinami, that if so, there is, Rav Yosef lo haya sameach, it says that Rav Yosef wasn't happy, chas v'shalom, al sheba shichecha la'olam. It says, wait a minute, it sounds from the previous class that Rabbi Yosef was happy that forgetfulness came to the world, because he's kind of like saying, I'm smarter than everybody. He's not saying it in an arrogant way. He just says, because of the Torah, because I learned a lot of Torah, I became very wise. So it seems a little bit from his words that he says, I'm happy that forgetfulness came to the world, because if it wouldn't, everybody would be like me, and then I wouldn't be so special. That's how one can interpret what he's saying, but that's not what he's saying. But nevertheless, it says that the first interpretation about Rav Yosef, that he's happy that everybody else has the forget. It's almost like a person will say, I'm happy that you are all not so educated and smart like me, because I'm so smart, I'm greater than everybody, and everybody comes to me. If everybody would be smart, then what's so special about me? So I'll tell you a quick funny story that once my father is a CPA, and he was once invited to a lawyer convention of all the top lawyers in Israel, 1,500 lawyers, to give them a lecture about taxes. My father is a professional in taxes. So they brought a CPA to give a lecture to lawyers about taxes. Okay. And my father said they were all making ridiculous comments. The questions were like ignorant questions. At some point he turned to the head, to the president of the association of the lawyers, and he told him, this is the questions that lawyers are asking me? It's like questions of a 12-year-old. So the head lawyer, the president, told him, if everybody would be as smart as me and you, how would we make money? So, same thing here. It seems like Rabbi Yosef is saying, I'm happy that you're not all smart like me, because if not, then if all of you would be smart like me, then I wouldn't be such a great rabbi. That's what it seems, at least, what it says. But nevertheless, this is not the situation. Ela, כך הייתה כוונתו. His real intention was, שאף שמשום שאמרו דבר אתה עמנו, since the nation of Israel told Moshe Rabbeinu, you talk to us, we don't want to hear from Hashem, at the day of Matan Torah, פסקו לזכור את התורה. They stopped remembering the Torah. מכל מקום, nevertheless, בוודאי שתכלית, no doubt here, that the purpose, גזירת השכחה, הייתה בעת שבירת הלוחות. The reason why they really start forgetting or not remembering, or forgetfulness came down to the world, was at the time of the breaking of the tablets. Not because they told Moshe Rabbeinu, the voice of Hashem is too hard for us to hear it. כיוון שהיו חוזרים לזכור את התורה על ידי הלוחות, because after they told Moshe Rabbeinu, you talk to us, and forgetfulness came down to the world, but nevertheless, when they got back the tablets, they started remembering everything back again. ומאחר שנגזרה השכחה, since the decree came after the breaking of the tablets, הדין, the law is, the judgment, נותן שאי אפשר עוד שיהיה בעולם אדם אחד שיזכור את כל תלמודו. After the tablets were broken, came down a din, a law to the world, that there's not going to be one person in the entire world that will remember what they learn. And that's the reality. Most people, they learn, very, very few people can read a book or listen to a lecture and then repeat it. They're talking about a fraction of people, maybe you can count them on your hand, of a certain individual. They can listen to an entire lecture. You know that maybe 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, there was a great tzaddik in New York, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I'm sure everybody heard about the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And on Shabbat, he would talk for hours. He would give, I can't call it speeches, but he would talk. Sometimes he would go for hours. There were 3 men that would sit in the crowd, listen to every word, and Motzei Shabbat go down and write it, word for word, and then give it to him to read, and he would read and make his comments. One of them I met, genius, who would listen to every word and remember every word, to write it down after a few hours. That's one in a 10 or 100 million, a brain that can listen to remember. So I also know of a certain man that he would read a book and he would know the book and he could tell you the whole book again. And that's one, bemet, one in 100 million, if not one in a billion. So it says here, because the tablets were broken, that caused that no man will ever remember what he learns. And what's going to be the result is you have to learn it again. Learn it again. You learn something, you remember 1%, 2%, 3%. Ooh, to memorize what you're learning. That's why the oral Torah is called Mishnah. Why is it called Mishnah? Because Mishnah means in Hebrew to repeat. Leshanen, repeat, repeat, repeat. My little kids in yeshiva, they're repeating Mishnayot. They don't even know what they're saying. They don't even know what it means. But they're blah, 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 blah. and now they're repeating it, so it's already engraved in the brain.
It's called eidetic memory.
Yeah? Nevertheless, Ela, Mishum shenitna Torah beyom ze, since the Torah was given on the day of Shavuot, ובאותו יום עדיין לא היה גזירת השכחה בעולם, on that day there wasn't a decree of forgetfulness in the world. Therefore, even though, אף שאמרו ישראל דבר אתה עמנו, even though the nation of Israel told Moshe, no, you talk to us, היו חוזרים לזכור על ידי לוחות האבן. They kept remembering again because the tablets were given. So on the day of Shavuot there wasn't a problem. The problem started the next day. לפי זה, according to that, נשארה בעולם אותה סגולה. Since then, because of that day, the remedy stayed in the world. And what is that remedy? למי שטורח הרבה, שתתקיים בזיכרונו. The remedy is if you want to remember everything that you learn, then you have to toil in the Torah. If you just read it like this, you're not going to remember nothing. The only way to remember really what you learn is if you really toil in the Torah. And most people, they don't even know what it means to toil in the Torah. To come to a class and to listen after the speaker, the lecturer, the teacher is giving you over the information, you're making your job easy. Because most lecturers, in order to give you an hour class, they have to prepare for 10 hours. Finding sources, reading, dissecting it, coming with some type of a conclusion or a call to action. So when you come to a class, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's fed to you. You fed, the information is fed. Sit down with the book, that's already a whole different ball game. Sometimes to give a 10-minute Dvar Torah, what is called the drasha, the rabbi has to prepare 3 hours. Why? So he can come with so many different angles. So when you learn from the actual book, that's why I always tell people, learning from a video is very nice. I told you already, I met not too long ago a young man. He told me, lately I become very strong. What's called strong in the Torah. I learn a lot of Torah. I learn 10 hours a day Torah. Ooh, 10 hours a day. That's amazing. I told him, which yeshiva do you go to? He says, I don't go to yeshiva. I see videos on YouTube. I said, well, YouTube is not a yeshiva. YouTube is nice, but you get maybe 5% of the video. I told him, learning Torah is you're sitting with a book and you need your brain to start understanding that. When I come and tell you everything, what's the big deal? You're sitting like this, you're enjoying your cup of coffee and maybe some cookies, and you hear, and I already chewed it. Me or the other speaker, sitting with the book backwards and forth, that's when you toil in the Torah, that's how you're going to remember. So it says, what's the remedy that was left that day of the giving of the Torah? Since we still have the tablets, you have to toil in the Torah. That's the only way to remember the Torah. לפי שטורח הרבה, if you toil a lot, תתקיים בזיכרונו. Then it will get stuck into your brain and you will know it perfectly. Now, going back to Rav Yosef, since Rav Yosef worked so hard, he toiled in the Torah, Zachal is called the Torah, so he merited to learn to remember the Torah. That's why I said it's not that there's no such people, but you're talking here about a few dozens, maybe, in our generation. I know of a rabbi, the Americans not necessarily know him so much. His name is Rav Meir Eliyahu. Young man, became a Baal Tshuva a few years ago. He's an Israeli rabbi. Probably will be the next one of the top rabbis of the generation. He has a photographic memory. You hear him telling a shiur Torah, he will tell you of, let's say, a source, and he goes like this, and he tells you exactly where it is. Talmud, Tractate Brachot, page 32, 3 lines from the bottom. But he's a genius. This is about Tshuva. This is not a person who was born into the Torah world. And in Israel, he's very famous, or also around the world for the Israelis. Americans don't listen to him, he doesn't speak English. But nevertheless, this is a perfect example of a genius. You've never seen anything like it. You literally never seen anything like it. It's unbelievable. He will quote you off by heart. Anything you say, any book, it will tell you exactly where it is. That's my rabbis like that. My rabbi would stun me. We would sit and learn. He would quote different books, and he would tell you, it's Tractate Sanhedrin, page 102, 3 lines from the bottom, the 3rd word from the right. You go over, what? How? And unbelievable. And like this on almost any book. So some brains are not normal brains. They just remember everything in literally like a photographic memory. So same thing here, we're talking about Rav Yosef. Yeah, Rav Yosef toiled, he had the zchut, the merit to remember the entire Torah. V'lo nigzera shichecha, and only the forgetfulness came down for forgetting your learning Torah, not forgetting your keys. I'm only talking about Torah, by the way, right now. I'm not talking right now that you forget where you parked your car. I'm talking about that you learned Torah and you forgot, because the reality is, and everybody will agree with me, you come to a class, you are very happy and inspired by the information. 3 minutes after you left the room, you don't even remember one word from what the speaker said. And if you remember a few, you don't know how to put it back together. No, he said it so clear, and you don't remember nothing. And it's not you, it's everybody. But nevertheless, some people remember. Ela, al mi she'eno toreach ba karoi, who is the one who's not going to remember the Torah? The one that is not really toiling in the Torah, that doesn't put effort in the Torah. It says something very interesting here. It says in the Talmud, specifically in the Yerushalmi, that a certain rabbi, Rabbi Yochanan, says the first 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu was in the mountain, he used to learn the Torah every day and then click delete. Learn the whole Torah, press delete. You know how sometimes you press delete. Now the technology will tell you, a window will pop up. Are you sure you want to delete? And you click yes. And usually how it works, the button will be not so easy. So Moshe Rabbeinu would learn the entire Torah. This is what the Talmud says in the Yerushalmi. If you want, you can see the source. The source, the tractate is Horiyut, 3rd chapter. Nevertheless, so it says every day he would learn the entire Torah. That's in the mountain. And then click delete, forget everything. Haya lomed Torah umeshakcha. Every day he would learn the entire Torah. Now what was the result? Nitna lo b'matana. At the end, after he did that for 40 days, then the Torah was given to him as a present. Now what is that for? Why did Moshe Rabbeinu do that? Bishvil lachzir et hatipshim. Is to help the ones who will forget, that he can help them learn. Moshe Rabbeinu, that's why he's called Rabbeinu. Nobody else got the title Rabbeinu. I told you many times, many people in our history got a title. Avraham got the title Avinu. There's no any other one who got the title Avinu. Okay, we say Yitzchak Avinu, but Avram Avinu, that's everybody knows that. And Yosef got the title Hatzadik, Yosef Hatzadik. Aaron HaKohen, Shmuel HaNavi, David HaMelech. You know how many kings we had? How come we always say David HaMelech? So Moshe got the title Rabbeinu, our teacher. Technically he should have gotten the title Hanavi. He's the top prophet that we ever had and ever will have. How come we don't call him Moshe HaNavi? How come we don't call him Moshe HaMelech? He was also a king. But he got the title Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu means our teacher, because he teaches us the Torah. Nevertheless, therefore he said, because of this day that the Torah was given, I'm talking about Rav Yosef, in a way that it will be remembered forever. That's one of the many reasons why the Ten Commandments were engraved on the stone. Because if you take a piece of paper, like a Torah, well, the Torah is a parchment, and you put it with ink, you can erase the ink. If Chas v'Shalom, there's a mistake in the Torah, you take it to the scribe, he can erase the ink. You put the letter back again. What do you do when there's a mistake? What, do you throw the whole Torah? No, there's a certain material, you dilute the ink, you erase it. It's not like a Tipex that you put over, but you can make the ink liquid, and you erase the ink, and you write the letter again. Very simple. But how can you do that on a tablet? How can you do it when it's engraved already on the stone? So one might say, okay, you can cover it with cement and then engrave it again. No, but the crack is still there. So the Torah was engraved on stone, same way it was engraved on our souls. Nevertheless, on the day the Torah was given to us, it was given in a way that we will always remember. And with this power, Hineni zocheret haTorah shelamadeti. That's Rav Yosef says, because of that, I remember the Torah that I have learned. Kama Yosef ika b'shuka. You know how many Yosefs are out there? Millions. Just the other day, my son is Yosef. And the other day he told me, how many Yosefs do you think are in the world? I told him thousands, tens of thousands of Yosefs. But there's only one Yosef, you are different. Everybody's different. We're all different. But nevertheless, Rav Yosef says, you know how many Yosefs are out there? But he was different. If That's what Rav Yosef says. If there wouldn't be forgetfulness in the world, then all the Yosefs would be the exact same, and then I wouldn't be the special Yosef that I am. But if he wouldn't toil, then he wouldn't remember his Torah. Nevertheless, let's go back a little bit quickly to the meal that he did on Shavuot. So first of all, we just need to conclude that Rabbi Yosef, wasn't an arrogant rabbi. It says that he says, oh, I'm better than everybody. He just says, no, because I toil in the Torah, anybody can toil. He's saying, in other words, you toil in the Torah, you'll get results. If you go to a yeshiva, to a Baal Tshuva yeshiva, you see that in the first few years, everybody's banging their head at the wall. Nobody understands anything. I was in 4 different yeshivot. Everybody is the same. You sit in the shiur, in the Talmud class like that. I would sit the first 2 years looking at my rabbi like, what is he talking about? And he would look at us, you don't understand what I said? And we're all like sitting like this, no, I don't understand one word. And he would say a whole difficult, what's called a sugya, an argument in the Talmud. We would all be like, I don't understand what you're saying. But it takes sometimes a year, 2 years, 3 years, till you crack the klippah, then you suddenly understand. Like the famous story with Rabbi Akiva, that he saw the drop going on a piece of stone. Nevertheless, so the point we want to take from that is that if you don't care, that's a whole different thing. But if you care about your Torah learning and you are feeling that you don't gain any memory, I don't remember what I learned. I learned, but I don't remember anything. You know what happened to me maybe in the first 3-4 years? Shabbat would come, we would have guests, and my wife would always tell me, you better have a Dvar Torah to tell at the table. Oh, it was Wednesday, what are you going to do? I would start reading and I couldn't remember anything. And every time I would memorize, I would read it 50 times, come to the table, I don't remember anything. I had to start inventing things, and so I couldn't understand. What, am I not a stupid individual? I'm not ignorant. How come I read something simple and I can't give it over? And sometimes I would listen to another rabbi talk for 2 minutes. I said, why can't I say this word for word? But it takes time till you break that klippah, this husk, till the light of the Torah shines in you. You know, today, by the way, if you notice, some of you were here, when we lift up the Torah, Monday, Thursday, and Shabbat, we take the Torah out, we lift up the Torah. The Arizal says that if you look in the letters, and you can actually see it clear to read, not when you're standing across the room and when you actually see the letters, a certain like shine, like a flash, kind of like I don't like to use the word radiation, but that's the word that he's using in Hebrew, krina, like something is radiating out of the Torah and does unbelievable miracles, does healing to the neshama, opens the well springs of knowledge. Just look in the Torah and read some of the letters. Nevertheless, so that's our remedy right now, how to remember the Torah. You have to toil in the Torah. You can't sit and learn 1 hour a week and think that's going to help you. That's why I always say minimum, before you even start your day, minimum 2 hours a day of Torah. That's just to warm up the engine. Other than that, you're never going to remember the Torah. Next, now let's talk a little bit about the meal that they had. If you remember that we talked about it last class, Rav Yosef used to do a meal specifically on Shavuot. There was, if you remember a quote, we quoted from the Talmud, that the day of Shavuot is called half-half. Half to Hashem, half to me. Half to me, how do I celebrate the day? With meals. So in our generation, we eat cheesecakes and all the yummy stuff, right? But half to Hashem means half the day, I have to pray. It's a Yom Tov, it's a long prayers. Now Rosh Hashanah is coming. Somebody asked me in the morning, do I need to register for the prayers, for the services? I told him, no, just come. He said, I don't need to buy a chair. I said, do you want to donate a chair? Donate a chair. He says, no, in other shuls you have to buy the chair. He says, just come. I told him, no, you don't have to buy a chair. He says, so how am I going to secure a chair? He says, so come early, you'll have a chair. But nevertheless, he says, so when are we going to start praying? I told him, why? He said, it's a very long prayer. I said, you're right, yeah. And Rosh Hashanah, it's a long prayer. It's not a regular prayer. So same thing with Shavuot, it's a long prayer. So now, Rav Yosef used to do a special meal, and on Shavuot he used to make a calf, a special dish, maybe veal or something, but it was a calf, and he made a special meal. What was that? A cat?
What was a cat?
A cat?
Yeah.
Oh, here, he ran out. The cat wants to learn Torah. He forgot his Torah, now he's coming back. So, listen, in Tzfat there's a lot of incarnations, weird incarnations in animals and all sorts of things. There's a dog that comes to our pond to do mikveh. He ruins everything. But I always say it's probably a person that was buried without tahara. He came back and now he's going to the mikveh every day. It's a big dog, jumps into the pond, goes in, out, in, out. The black one, yeah? Yeah? So this cat, he probably forgot the Torah. He says, oh, there's a shiur Torah here. And he came in. Yeah, Tov. So now let's quickly talk about the Seudah that Rav Yosef used to do. He used to make a very special meal. And he used to do a calf. Anyways, you can go to the previous class to we elaborated about more, but let's see what it says here. It says as follows, Omnam, but עדיין צריך עיון בדברי רבי אלעזר, we have to focus on what Rabbi Elazar was saying when he says, הכל מודים בעצרת, all the rabbis agreed, this is what we quoted last class, all the rabbis agreed, I'm talking about the rabbis of the Talmud, that on Atzeret, on the Yom of Shavuot, the Be'inan, Nami Lachem, everybody agrees that we have to have a special meal on Shavuot. Okay. Deyesh le'akshot, ech be'inan lachem. Okay, so for that we ask, how is it for you? Why do I have to make a celebration on the holiday of Shavuot to eat something? And by the way, we have to, all the holidays that we have to eat. You know the famous joke with the Jews, that if you follow our faith, then one time we feast, then we fast. Then we feast, then we fast. We eat fast. So that's our holidays, if you're looking at the holidays. Somebody wanted to kill us, we were saved, let's eat. Then we fast, then somebody wanted to kill us, let's eat again. Nevertheless, so it says, how come our sages say that on the holiday of Shavuot I have to have a meal, but to pleasure the meal, like a real nice meal? So in our generation they serve cheesecakes. I guess that's what people like, cheesecakes. But nevertheless, מפני שניתנה בו תורה. Why? Because this is a very special day. The Torah was given on that day. הלא אדרבה, ביום שקיבלו תורה, שהיא כולה, the day that the Torah was given, כולה, it's entire of it, כל השכר לימודה וקיומה מיועד להינתן לעולם הבא. Now I don't understand here. All our sages agree that on the day of Shavuot, since the Torah was given, we have to make a meal. And why are we making a meal now? Isn't the reward or the what I earn from the Torah is for the world to come? Who gives me the reward in this world? All the Torah, all the reward, להינתן לעולם הבא, is to give it to me in the world to come. Why? כיוון דשכר מצוות בהאי עלמא ליקא. We know, based on the Talmud, that I don't get reward for mitzvot in this world. There's a few mitzvot. The Talmud says, the Mishnah actually says, there's a few mitzvot that if I do in this world, I will get part of it in this world. The mitzvah of charity, visiting a sick person, escorting a dead person, honoring your parent, and so forth, a few other mitzvot, then I will get some of it here, but the rest is for the world to come. But we know that all the reward that I get for mitzvot is in the world to come. שאין מקבלים בעולם הזה שכר על המצוות. You don't get reward in this world. Sometimes people say, you know, I did so good. Why am I not getting a reward? Because the reward is for the world to come. You're not getting paid here. ולכן לכאורה, seemingly, היה מן הראוי שיהיה אותו יום כולו מוקדש לשמיים. You would think that the day of Shavuot should be dedicated only to the Torah. Learn Torah, pray, eat. This is the day you want to eat. לעשות הכול השם, make the whole day just for the קדוש ברוך הוא. ומדוע לדברי הכל צריך ביום זה להתענג באכילת סעודתו. So why everybody agrees that on this day we have to have a Yom Tov, a סעודה, a meal for Yom Tov? So in order to understand that, we have to understand something very interesting. ויש לומר שהואיל שמלאכי השרת נתעבו לתורה. When the Torah was given to us, there was a prosecution in Shamayim. The angels filed a lawsuit against us. The angels said to Hashem, they're getting the Torah? We want to get the Torah. The angels said, we want the Torah to stay in the heavens, and we don't want it to go down to the humans, because the Torah came down from the heavens. We saw it that Moshe Rabbeinu go up on the mountain, Hashem came down to the mountain and gave the Torah. But really what happened, the Torah ascended from the world above. So right away, the Jewish lawyers in the heavens filed a lawsuit against the Jews. Why are they getting the Torah? The angel says, we should get the Torah. The Torah should remain in the heavens. And according to that, since the angels cannot really do mitzvot, they don't have a body. Not only that they don't have a body, they can't do a physical mitzvah. We can do mitzvot. Zacha Moshe v'nitzcham. Now what happened is, we got sued in Shamayim. So who was subpoenaed to the heavenly court? Moshe Rabbeinu. The angels sue, Moshe Rabbeinu came. He's okay, I came to represent the humans of the world. And Moshe Rabbeinu presented the case, and he won the case. How did he win the case? This is said, you can find this whole story in the Talmud, in Tractate Shabbat, page 88. And it says as follows, Moshe Rabbeinu amar lamalachim, Moshe Rabbeinu answered the angels, Kevan she'en lahem guf, since you don't have a body, אי אפשר להם לקיים הרבה מהמצוות. You can't do the mitzvah. How can you put tefillin on? You don't even have a hand. How are you going to give charity? You don't have a hand to give charity. How are you going to do anything? You can't do nothing. You don't have a body. Nevertheless, הסכימו המלאכים לדבריו. The angel says, you're right. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, the long story says, Moshe Rabbeinu says, let's go through the entire 10 commandments. What does it say in the commandments? Anochi Havai Elokecha, I am God, your God, that took you out of Mitzrayim. Asher hotziticha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu told the angels, you were in Egypt? He took us out of Egypt. It says, honor your father and your mother. You have a father and a mother? Angels have fathers and mothers? You don't have a father and mother. Don't kill. You should not kill. Can you kill? Can an angel kill an angel? No. You don't have jealousy. You don't commit adultery. It's for us. The Torah was given for us. Nevertheless, since Moshe Rabbeinu pleaded the case, he won the case. אם כן, מטעם זה עצמו, מחויבים ישראל לכל ביום זה. Since Moshe Rabbeinu said the Torah was given to us because the Torah is to do physical mitzvot, therefore we have to do something physical on the day of Shavuot. That's why we have to do physical things throughout the year. A lot of people say, what's all these rituals that you're doing? It's all with physical things. Tefillin is a piece of leather. Tzitzit, it's a piece of wool. Now it comes Sukkot, we're going to build a sukkah. The etrog is a fruit. The lulav is also. Wouldn't it make more sense that the Torah should just sit like this and have thoughts, spiritual meditations? So the Torah says no, the Torah is to do physical things. If you're not doing something physical, you can't fulfill the Torah. Nevertheless, since that day that's what happened, then we have to make a meal. מטעם זה עצמו מחויבים ישראל לאכול ביום זה, שהרי אם לא הייתה ביניהם אכילה, התורה אינה ראויה להם. If they wouldn't have something physical like eating, then the Torah would not be able to give to us. Angels don't eat. That's why on Yom Kippur we fast. Because on Yom Kippur we are elevated to a level and we're like angels. So many people are dressed in white. Many people do many different customs, but the main thing is we don't eat. Why? Because angels don't eat. We want to resemble angels. Nevertheless, if we wouldn't make a meal on the day of Shavuot, then the Torah would not be worthy to give it to us. That's why all the rabbis say that the word lachem to you. Why? Because we all have to spend half of the day with doing some mitzvot. שמחמת שאנו אוכלים בגופנו, since we're eating with our bodies, קיבלנו את התורה לשמור ולקיים את המצוות. Since we're eating with it, we need the body. We eat with the body, we sleep with the body, everything is done with the body. The soul cannot do a mitzvah. Souls in Gan Eden looking down and they can't do mitzvot. They need to jump into a body in order to do the mitzvah. So in order to fulfill the Torah, I need to be in the physical world. And I need to use a body for that. An angel can look at me, he can be the highest of all angels. Can't do what I do. Why? Because I have a body. Therefore the Torah was given to us humans. Why? So we can do what it says in the Torah. If you go through 90% of the mitzvot, it's including some organ in your body, some limb in your body, or something physical. Very few mitzvot are to love Hashem in your heart, to meditate, whatever it is, to love another person, which one can argue and say, I love you with my heart. But nevertheless, 90% of the mitzvot is something physical that I have to do with either with my body or with some type of a physical article. Nevertheless, שכמה אזהרות נאמרו בתורה לאסור באכילה הרבה דברים. There are many prohibitions in the Torah when it comes to food. The Torah has a lot of focus on food in the Torah. Don't eat this, don't eat that. You can only eat this now, or you can only eat this in this fashion. Nevertheless, we have a lot of prohibitions in the Torah when it comes to food. For example, I'm not allowed to eat crops in Israel before 10% of it was given. So now we don't have Bet HaMikdash, we're doing it rabbinical. But when we had Bet HaMikdash, this was the Oraita from the Torah. Before any food that I have, fruits or vegetables, I have to give 10% from that. So here is one out of many prohibitions in the Torah. Nevertheless, and it's not only that, this is called Hafrashat Trumot. I have to take 10% and give to the Levi and the Kohen. Then I have to give Maasrot to the Kohanim. And Orla. Orla means that in the first 3 years, when the fruit is on the tree, I'm not allowed to eat it. Only after 3 years. Then we have Shvi'it. Shvi'it means the sabbatical year. On the 7th year, I can eat. Then I have a prohibition of meat and dairy. Can mix meat and dairy. And then when it comes to meat, how the meat is slaughtered, and so forth. Ooh, you know how many prohibitions I have in the Torah? Only about food. So we see that a huge amount of the mitzvot is not only has to do with my body, also with food. ובטענה זו בלבד, and with this claim that we fulfilling the mitzvot, the mitzvah of eating is with the body, ניצח משה את המלאכים. That's how Moshe Rabbeinu won the lawsuit. He opened the Torah and he says, okay, look how many mitzvot we have with food. Do you eat? You don't eat. Obviously the Torah is for us. Torah was not reformed for us. The Torah was created way before the world was created. So Moshe Rabbeinu, a very good lawyer, opens the Torah, he tells the angels, look how many prohibitions and mitzvot we have with food. I don't see you eating. It means we eat. The Torah belongs to us. Nevertheless, just to conclude, that's what it says in the Torah. Zot Torat. This is the Torah. Lehavdil ben ha'of ha'tameh la'tahor. This can be found in Parashat Hashmini, in the book of Vayikra, chapter 11, when it's talking about the entire Torah, about the entire instructions about how do you make a separation between a kosher bird to an unkosher bird. You know how many birds we have? Thousands of birds. But the Torah tells me, these are the birds that you're allowed to eat, and it names them. These are the birds you're not allowed to eat, and it names them. Look how much length the Torah is going about to explain to me about the separation between two birds. And it's saying it in a hinting way. This is the Torah. Zachitem lo Torah, because you merit to receive the Torah. Mishum lehavdil, because we have the opportunity to separate. This is kosher, this is not kosher. This is really one of the foundations of the Torah, is that before the sin of Adam HaRishon, there was only good in the world. After the sin of Adam HaRishon, then evil came into the world and it got mixed with the good. Now the evil is mixed with the good. Now what is our job in this world? To separate between pure and impure, kosher, not kosher, permitted, not permitted. That's the whole Torah. The whole Torah is making separations, so we can separate the good from the bad. That's what we want to do. We want to strengthen the good that it will overpower the bad. That's what we're doing here. Therefore, when after the lawsuit, then we merit to get the Torah. Bishvil sheyesh benechem achila, because we eat. Look how much, I'm just focusing on the food right now. How much laws in regards to food. Vatem yecholim lekayem avdala zot. We are able to do this separation in the food. Half the food is kosher, half the food is not kosher. Well, it's more like 10% is kosher, 90% is not kosher. But nevertheless, we have the ability to separate between kosher and not kosher. Therefore, the Torah belongs to us. We're going to stop right here. We didn't finish the argument and the explanation about the meal of Shavuot, but the time has come to finish. Just to conclude what we're saying here, because we're learning a whole chapter. We're already in the 4th class. It will take us probably another few classes just to finish the chapter. So till we finish and conclude the chapter, you have to sit in all the classes to get the point. But in the meantime, we like deriving things from every class that we take. And here we have to understand a very basic but yet very fundamental part in the Torah. Because a lot of people say, I don't need all these mitzvot. It's not for me. Let me learn Torah. Let me learn about the greatness of Hashem. I love Hashem. A lot of people say, I'm religious in my heart. I don't need you to be religious in your heart. The Torah is to work in this world with your body. That's why all the mitzvot, sorry, I take it back, The majority of the mitzvot are with physical things. You light candles, it's with wax and a wick. A woman says, does hafrashat chala, she has to take separate from that, it's with dough and water. Everything is with something physical. That's why we were giving a body. It's not that I was giving a hand, it's not that I was given the mitzvah of tefillin because I have a hand. I was given a hand in order to fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin. If you ask me, why do you have a hand? Well, I have a hand. So you think you got the mitzvah of tefillin because you have a hand? No. You got a hand because there's a mitzvah of tefillin to perform and to fulfill. And same thing with every mitzvah. So 90% of our mitzvot are physical, with physical objects, and with things that have to do with my body. And I have to understand that the only way to connect to the Torah is through the mitzvot. I mean, my ultimate goal is to connect to Hashem. But the mitzvot are the tools that allow me to connect to Hashem. Therefore, I have to put my mind and my focus on what are the physical mitzvot. The angel says the Torah belongs to us. No, it doesn't. Because look at what the Torah says. A majority of the rules in the Torah is for humans, because angels can't do it. And therefore, I have to understand that my link to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, my ultimate goal is to be connected to Hashem. But I can't connect to Hashem by just sitting like this and doing all sorts of poses with my body and sounds. It's not going to work. That Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was able to do, to be able to connect to the Kadosh Baruch Hu without the physical object. 13 years he was in a cave. He didn't have tefillin. He didn't build a sukkah. He didn't have matzah. He didn't have a trog. But that's how many people like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the last 4,000 years? 3. Avraham Avinu was able to do that. Yaakov and Yitzchak were able to connect to Hashem without the physical object. Yaakov Avinu used to put sticks on his hand and tie them with a rope, and he would do the same action of tefillin. We can't do that. We need the physical object. So the physical objects, including my body, is the tool for the soul to get connected to Hashem in the most highest way. Souls in Gan Eden and in heaven, and the highest of all angels cannot be connected to Hashem like what we do in this world with a physical object. When I put tefillin on for 5 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, I reach to the highest level of connection with God. So I have to understand from that practical that the physical mitzvot and my physical body, that's why I'm not allowed to touch my body or harm it. I have to take care of the body. You know what a powerful tool the body is? I'm not allowed to now damage my body in many different ways. There's a prohibition in the Torah. I'm not allowed to put my body in danger. I'm not allowed, it's according to halakha, I'm not allowed to smoke. Because maybe 50 years ago people will tell you, no, smoking is good. Everybody knows now smoking causes cancer. You're not allowed to smoke according to the Torah because you're putting your body in danger. You're not allowed to drive 200 miles an hour in a car. You're putting your body in danger. You are transgressing a prohibition from the Torah. So I have to take from that. We'll continue the rest next week and the following weeks. But practically for this class, what we need to understand is that I need to understand that I have to operate in this world, in the physical world, doing physical mitzvot, and I have to do it with my own body, and that's how I get connected in the best, highest, most proficient way to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. B'ezrat Hashem, we should learn from that to increase with doing mitzvot and fulfilling the mitzvot, what the Torah says, because there's a reason, we'll talk about another time, why the mitzvot are my links to the Torah, because the mitzvot are like limbs to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and when I do the mitzvah, I'm kind of like being connected to Hashem in the most profound and most deepest way. B'ezrat Hashem, this should inspire us to keep more mitzvot physically in this world and be connected to Hashem the best way possible.